Welcome to One Up Fantasy, helping you one up the fantasy football competition. For the latest in Chicago sports news, visit ChiCitySports.com. And now, here are the hosts of One Up Fantasy, Stephen Johnson and Chris Jackle. Kaboom!
Hello and welcome in to One Up Fantasy here on this lovely Tuesday evening as we get ready for week number 4 and try and put the dreaded whatever the hell you want to call Sunday behind us, at least for us Bears fans. But hey, we're here. I'm Stephen Johnson. He is Chris Jackle. And Chris, I tell you what, I didn't just feel bear pain. I felt some pretty bad fantasy pain over the week. I lost 4 matchups by a combined 2.5 points.
Oh shit! That is an awful kick in the shins, my man.
Yeah, it was not a fun go of things by any means. So hopefully your week went a lot better.
Oh no, it's fucking awful. In my 6 pretty decent money leagues, right? I lost 5 out of 6, and they were all ass whoopings. So I was killed with injuries, just fucking duds. It was just not a good fucking weekend all around. Thanks, Matt Nagy, and thank Fantasy Gods for what happened to me this past Sunday and Monday. But anyway, it's great to be here, man. And it's week 4. We're just about a quarter of the season with these 17 games. If you mathematicians are out there, next Tuesday or Wednesday, I think we're a quarter in. So, there's a lot to talk about.
That there is more injuries. It just seems like it continues to roll. I don't know what to say about it anymore. I mean, it seems like every week, and it's to bigger names. We saw a week 3 without a Dalvin Cook sighting, although Madison did pretty damn good for the Vikings in his absence. And then the one, the only CMC, Christian McCaffrey, down with an injury. We're actually going to start there. So let's just bring his lovely mug up. The injury woes continue. Chuba Hubbard steps in. CMC, a hamstring injury after a pretty hot start to how the game went on Thursday night against Houston. But here we are, thankfully not an IR stint for the reigning number 1 overall pick across the board in fantasy land and running back land. I guess that's debatable for some people, but at least in my mind it is. In terms of what this does for Christian McCaffrey owners and what this could mean for these next couple weeks, are you going into full-blown panic mode, seeing that this is the 2nd consecutive year with a pretty rough and tumble injury, maybe not as significant as we saw last year, but still, are some red flags starting to fly?
Oh, of course. I mean, this is, first 3 seasons in the league, he was 16 games, night in, night out, or, he was tried and true. The last 2 years, we're looking at 3 games, like you said, last season. The numbers through the first 3 seasons are almost identical. They're off by 24 yards, I think. But with all that being said, unless you're sitting pretty going into week 4 on the waiver side where you can land, Chuba, Mr. Hubbard, because he's only owned in about 26% of the leagues right now, or he's rostered in about 26% of the leagues. So he's available. So if you're sitting pretty and you won some games and you didn't use any of your waiver money or claims or however your league is set up, you're either going to spend a bunch of money to try to get him, or, you can do it the old fashioned way and put your claim in and see if you wake up the next day and you got a W there. But it's scary, because there aren't any other options out there if you're not able to replace CMC, because he's he's a workhorse when he's healthy. But unfortunately, here we are. Deja vu all over again, as Yogi liked to say. And what do we do? What are your thoughts?
Chuba did perform rather admirably. 11 carries, 52 yards, 3 catches for 27 yards. So for the most part, it did remind me kind of what like Mike Davis was able to do last year for the team. So the biggest question, and everybody's talking about just how much of the waiver wire spend for your bids to throw in at Chuba.
What would you do?
This is the thing. The fact that the Panthers are confident enough to not put McCaffrey on the IR means that they look at this as hopefully a 2-week injury and nothing more than that. Maybe 3 weeks. It's playing with fire there, but we know it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks. I can't fathom spending that much money on him unless I am like at the very end of my rope when it comes to trying to trot out a starting running back. And really, I mean, we've seen the injury bug just kick this guy left or just kick, fantasy players left and right. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're starting, say, like a Damian Harris or Javonte Williams as your RB1, then you probably want to toss a little bit of cash. But
of course,
for most leagues, $100 is average for the year spend. Yeah. I wouldn't go more than 25. Really, okay. I'd feel comfortable with a quarter. But I mean, I'm seeing guys out there that are willing to spend 50, 60, 70%.
Shit, we've seen it in our leagues, like 60s. I'm like, holy cow.
I do believe there is one team in the TTNL leagues that has already spent their entire stipend for the year. I could be wrong.
Well played, sir. I think it's Logan. He might have spent all his money, But hey, he ended up getting the guys he needed, and he's looking okay. I think he has every running back in the league. But but when back to the Panthers, right? The thing that makes me nervous is they gave what's his name, Tommy Tremble. He got that touchdown carry at the end. He plays tight end, or he's listed at TE, but he got some carries. Yeah. I don't know if that means he's the goal line guy. I'm not sure, but that doesn't exactly bode well for Chuba. But with that being said, that's just something I thought about as we were talking about this, because outside of that, I think he's a great play. If you're able to get him on your roster, they're going to use him. The Panthers have options, though. I mean, Sam Darnold is obviously, demonstrating the Gase/Nagy effect, and like he's able to, succeed in a much different system with some people that know what the fuck they're doing. And like, he's got 3 receivers that are solid: DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and the young buck, Terrence Marshall Jr. Right? Yep. That's a pretty good trio of wide receivers, and Sam Darnold is showing that he's able to be successful. And I actually would like to start him this week if I was rostering him. He's one. Well, we'll get to that later, but but I just think that the Panthers will be okay. Fantasy wise, I think your receivers may get a tick, increase in some targets, which is beautiful. For DJ Moore and Terrence Marshall may be around. He may be available in some leagues as well. But yeah, DJ Moore and the other gentleman there, now that his name eludes me as I just said it twice.
Robbie.
Yeah, thank you. I know Robbie's been cold this year to start, but I think this is now where you're going to see that uptick because of the fact that they're going to need to kind of come up with some more offense. Food for thought.
I am curious to see. You mentioned Tommy Tremble in there. The Panthers just did trade Dan Arnold, who was their starting tight end. For the first 3 weeks to the Jaguars for CJ Henderson, a top 10 pick, a top 10 pick a year ago. And the Jaguars we don't want you anymore. But knowing that JC Horn is now out for the year with the foot injury, the rookie corner for the Panthers, it makes sense. But Tremble's going to get his shot. I'm curious to see just how he is used, but I like that you threw that name out there, because that's definitely someone to keep an eye on in terms of what could work out here for this Panthers offense. But I mean, I think Chuba will perform admirably.
Yeah.
He also got Royce Freeman there. I don't think there's really much concern over
What did
Freeman.
he get? 6 carries or 9? I forget what I read.
5 carries for 17 yards, and he also had an 8-yard reception. So, I mean, really, it was Chuba leading the way on that one, 66% of the share there with what they had between the two players. I mean, Chuba was a guy with a pretty solid pedigree at Oklahoma State. He goes back to school, and it backfires on him. I mean, he talks about a second-round pick.
He went fourth round.
Yeah, exactly. He goes back, doesn't have a great year in the condensed season with the Cowboys in Oklahoma. And, next thing you know, he's, kind of found the spotlight in a not so great way for Panthers fans, but still gets the job done.
I was surprised. Yeah, he did very well at Oklahoma State. I mean, in high school, he rushed for almost 7,000 yards. I mean, it's like the guy is he's got a nose for the end zone. I mean, 82 touchdowns in high school, 36 touchdowns in college. I mean, so hopefully these numbers equate. Obviously we or the pundits were saying, second round grade. He went in the 4th round. And so now he looks like a steal. Hopefully the Panthers got their guy that can, that Band-Aid or stop that leak or panic button. And there's other places they're smashing that panic button. But with that being said, I think the Panthers are sitting okay with Chuba for the short term.
Right.
But if you're looking at the long-term solution there, not even on the fantasy side, I think the Panthers, they're obviously looking to have their Ferrari back in the garage, not the electric Mustang.
Yeah. I mean, it's the 3-0 NFC South leading Carolina Panthers to boot after Tampa Bay loses to LA.
Your call on Darnold at the beginning of the season's looking pretty good so far.
He's looking solid. I like it. it. But speaking of panic buttons, we'd be amiss not to go back to our
I'm smashing
Chicago
the panic button.
faithful. A week ago we're talking about what Justin Fields can do for these offensive weapons. Is it too early to really just continue to slam that panic button, or is there real cause for concern here? Because Allen Robinson, through 3 games, 86 yards on 10 catches and a touchdown. 86 yards. That's in a
21
season.
targets, so 7 a game, if you will. It's still not good, but you're right. I mean, but this is a guy that played for the fucking Jaguars. He's playing for the Bears. So, I mean, there's some similar company. And granted, the Bears have been somewhat successful over the last few years, and that's debatable depending on, who you talk to. But he has done more with less in the past. I could see this being a big bounce back game for him against the Lions. I mean, if you're not going to start him against the Lions, why the fuck is even trade him? If you're not going to play him, you got to move him, And so it's like, I have him. He was my keeper in one of my money league. I got him late, and it's just I like Allen. I'm a homer there, but I thought it was good value. Now I look like an idiot, but I'm hoping for some good things. And I thought there was this coming last weekend, but there's no way we have back-to-back performances. I play for the team, but the Bears are going to have back-to-back performances like they did last week. If anything, there's going to be more than what we saw with that offense. Allen Robinson's targets production should increase, but I see it increasing but it's like we're at the bottom already. So there's not much room to go except for up. And I don't know what to do with my hands, but I don't know what you think. What do you think about so to answer your question, I'm not hitting it yet. Next week, if it's a dud, I'm punching a hole through it. I might be tapping the button with Darnell Mooney, because we may get to him. With that being said, his numbers are similar to Robinson. I think 19 targets, 101 yards. But that just speaks to what we saw last. It's like they didn't even have a game last weekend for their statistics. So it's like that's like 2 games in theory. Right. But I don't know. I'm tentative. I'm maybe hitting it on Mooney just because of what's going on. But with respects to Robinson, I'm holding off. Yeah,
it's really difficult, and it's painful, I guess, is the best way to put it, because again, you look at what these guys have done. I mean, last year Robinson averaging 9 targets a game, 6 catches a game, 78 yards through the air, and now we're sitting here at a 30 yard per game clip. For Robinson. It's ugly. It's just straight up ugly. And now the question turns to, is this just something that fantasy players are going to have to sit with until the stubbornness of Matt Nagy dissipates and he finally relinquishes play call duties for good? I don't know if that's going to happen, and that's concerning, because this is an offense that has not gotten vertical. And that's what really both of these guys need to stretch the field and get rolling. It's been very short, within 10 yards per pass situations. And I don't really think there's going to be much change, especially if the offensive line continues to play the way that they did. It was just, again, an abysmal game against the Browns. But not only that, you look at the fact that they kept Justin Fields in the pocket. I don't know where Andy Dalton is. I don't know when he's going to get healthy.
Nick Foles.
If Nick what Foles are we doing? Starts this week, I don't even know what to do then. I mean, that could be even worse. We don't know how much worse it could possibly get. And we're coming off of a game in which the Bears had the second least total yards in modern NFL history. They had 1 net passing yard.
Yeah, it was awesome.
1.
It was awesome.
Oh my God. Yeah, just like I want good things to happen, but nothing.
So to answer your own question, are you hitting the panic button first? Hey, Anna, how you doing out there? You know, it's nice to appreciate the love out in the chat. So I'm glad people are checking in and chiming in the chat room. So it's pretty fun. But what are your thoughts? I mean, are you hitting the button?
I'm starting to. I really am. I think I'll be full blown like 11 out of 10 come Monday if the Bears are 1-3 and put up another abysmal offensive showing.
If they lose to the Lions, I mean,
that's it. I mean, yeah, you can say that the Lions held their own. They needed a 66-yard field goal as time expires to beat them against the Baltimore Ravens, who are a formidable team themselves.
Yeah.
But that's still the Detroit Lions.
True.
It's still the kneecap biters. It's still a team that is
they got
not
Jared
ready.
Fucking off. I mean, come on.
They got to do something. They got to do something.
I mean, we can't talk shit. We're.
I know that's the worst part. It's just like put the brown bag over your head. But I'm looking at really. You can't start Mooney. I'd say for Allen Robinson's sake, you're looking at wide receiver 3 right now at best, if not a flex. You can't trust it. You just can't. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just a little hesitant right now. And I think maybe, to be honest with you, Stephen, it just could be that homer inside of me. It's like, you're holding on to that glimmer. Is like, there's, Justin's going to be Justin. He's going to go out and he's, maybe he's just like, fuck Nagy. I'm going to run my own shit and just call his own number a few times and just be, like, all right, well, maybe we got something here. But, that's probably not going to happen because the kid's too smart for that. But yeah, we should probably move on because we could talk about this for way too long. I know we got a lot of Bears fans that are listening, but
they're fired up right now.
Yeah, and I get it. Like and so with that being said, you guys better tune in tomorrow night at 8:30 because there's definitely going to be plenty to talk about with Phil and Shane on TTNL, and keeping it 100. Tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern. So
yep. And our friend Matt Waldman on the show tomorrow
yes,
night
sir.
As well. So that should be a fun one. We wrap up the topics here to kick off the show with the LA Rams. Hell of a showing against the Buccaneers. They are 3-0. It is running on all cylinders. That defense has not missed a beat. And that offense is, for lack of a better term, looking pretty damn unstoppable through the air. And it is all because of one Cooper Kupp and what he has been able to put together here so far. Thus on the year, 3 games, 25 catches on 33 targets. It's 11 targets a game for 367 yards and 5 touchdowns. You want to extrapolate that out. That's 8 catches, 122 yards a game, and over a touchdown a game. That is a hell of a pace. We know that Matthew Stafford loves targeting his slot receiver, and it is showing this year. Meanwhile, Robert Woods, drafted around the same area, the same ADP as one Cooper Kupp, complete opposite end of the spectrum. 11 catches on 19 targets for 124 yards and a touchdown.
Crazy.
That's just 41 yards per game. Is this a situation in which things are eventually going to come around for one Robert Woods, or is this the Cooper Kupp show in the bright lights of LA?
Well, proof's in the pudding, in my opinion. I think Mr. Kupp is the guy. I mean, he's wide receiver 2 this past weekend. I mean, him and Stafford seem to have just that connection. They talked about it, I think, even in a Sunday night game against Chicago, was, they were working out in the offseason and they were putting in all this time together before, after practice. They have that bond, and clearly that timing is there. And it could come with Woods, but the Rams have a pretty solid receiving room. They got Van Jefferson. They have Deshaun Jackson, who is, speaking of vertical with respects to Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney. There's your vertical man right there. And what was it, a 76 or 84-yard touchdown pass he had this past weekend? I mean, and McVay ran them down, so they're all fast over there in LA, but they have a good group of guys. And I think, and some of those guys were there, but they had Jared Goff. And I think this is more of a Matthew Stafford utilizing the strengths of the team, where Woods might have been more opportunistic, where now they're designing this offense. To me, they're just trying to put the ball in Cooper's hands because he is just that dominant right now. I mean, this is like Julian Edelman at his prime with Brady, like that type of bond. You know what I mean? And I know you have the stats to back this up, and you rattled them off earlier with respects to Coop starting out the year. But, I just think Woods is not as, he's been in the league a while. He maybe is, father time could be cut. Nobody beats father time, you lose eventually. Right. So with that being said, maybe he's just slowing down, and you compound that with Coop's skill set, here we go. And I mean, if you get Coop, you're looking all right. Cooper Kupp, I love the guy, and so I think he's well worth it. I would try to ride him into the sun, ride. Oh boy, that came out completely wrong. Fuck. Thanks, Shane. Riding the stats and the history of the last 3 weeks, I think you're just going to see this continue to trend in the right direction. He could end up being wide receiver 1 when all said and done, the way that it's just going with that offense. They're running on all cylinders. And I think it's Stafford, Kupp, and, the rest of the guys there. They got Josh Palmer. They got a bunch of dudes. They got plenty of guys. And so what do you think, man? I kind of just went on a little tangent there, but, that's weed. I kind of just go every once in a while.
It is surprising that there has been such significant differentiation between the two, especially when you look at what Stafford has been able to do. I mean, Stafford is having a career year right now through his first 3 games. He's completing 70% of his passes. That would be a career high if he keeps up that clip.
Yeah.
314 yards and 3 touchdowns per game is his current average, which is a hell of a start for Matthew Stafford. And he had a pretty solid career in Detroit. Yeah, there were quite a few bumps, but like we talked about, it's Detroit. We know what he is with now, and Sean McVay, an offensive guru, and just weapons.
What is that?
I wish I knew. I don't know. I'm a Bears fan. But
I know, as I wear all this stupid shit, right? But who's a dummy now?
But that's the thing, though, is because, averaging 314 yards a game, you would think that Woods would get a little bit more when it comes down to it, but he just isn't. And it's bizarre to me. So I want to think that he'll finally, get things rolling, but I can't see it. It just doesn't feel like it's there right now. And I don't know if it's just a chemistry thing with Stafford, I mean, that could be it. But
Yeah.
for Stafford to be doing as well as he is right now and for Woods not to be a part of that, I feel like that raises quite a few flags, especially if this is a Rams team that might end up maybe dialing back a little bit if teams start to catch on to what they're doing offensively. Or maybe if, you see Cooper Kupp start to see a couple more defenders shadowing as he makes his way down the field, that could open it up for Woods. That could open it up more for Van Jefferson, for Deshaun Jackson, whoever it may be. So that might be the trigger there to get Robert Woods moving. But if I had to put money on it, I just don't feel good about him right now. I just plain don't. So
now, is he a guy, pardon me, if you had him on your team, would you wait, see if he does anything week 4, look to trade him high, or do you try to sell him low now and just try to fill a hole or, fill a need in what you're looking to do on your roster?
Yeah, I mean, I would hold on to him. I hate saying it for at least another 2 weeks. I don't like cutting bait on guys that I pick in the top 5 rounds before week 5 when it's not injury related. It's just a rule that I've always had. And it's one of those things where you never know if it's just a little bit of a bump in the road and, he'll figure it out, just a little bit of a rut. But at the same time, you have people out there that say, why would you do that? You could be, holding on to an asset that's going nothing but down. So where do you go from here? I don't know. I don't necessarily envision a situation though where he continues to do this for 17 straight games. I can't see it. I know he's getting up there in age, but it's one of those things where
he's in LA too, so he gets all the cocktails and all the the good stuff out there, right? So
he's doing the varsity blues night beforehand and showing up hungover and just not getting the job done.
Get the IVs, you just get all whatever, you're good. But I think you have a good point. He's got. Statistics show that he's going to produce. He's done it, and he has a better quarterback. It's like you would think that would equate to more targets, more production, more touchdowns, and maybe it's just the numbers will have a way of playing themselves out, which means he's in for some monster weeks, right? If that's the case, But just I want to throw a hypothetical at you. Speaking of dropping guys within the first 5 rounds, or first 5 rounds, before week 5 or 4. If say you went Julio Jones, Robert Woods, 5, 6, or 6, 7, who would you start in that situation out of those 2 guys on your roster right now?
I mean, right now it's Julio, especially with AJ Brown, with the injuries.
If he wasn't hurt, based on going into week 3, how about that?
I'd still put Julio there just because of that home run ability that he does possess. I'd say that he still feels like a little bit better of an option at this point in time. If I had to stick a turnaround game on Woods, though, it would be next week against the Seahawks. We'll talk about the Seahawks a little bit later here tonight, but they are looking bad, just straight up bad against opposing passing attacks. And, if there's something that can cure what's ailing Robert Woods, it's probably the Seattle Seahawks.
The Legion of Boom.
No more.
Yeah, exactly.
No more.
Yeah.
The Legion of Boom is more like it.
There.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a perfect
he fits
fit.
right in over there. Exactly. Look at that, shit. Yeah, it's tough, man, but I'm a big Russell Wilson fantasy guy. So I think with their defense being as shitty as it is, it's just like, it just helps out him having to throw the ball 50 times. So, but anyway, let's jump on over to the next segment here, Mr. Johnson. What do you say?
Sounds good. We call it glitches and cheat codes.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise known as starts and sits. That is right. We're going to talk some week 4 starts, sits. We call it glitches and cheat codes. some ups, some downs, some not
All
so great
arounds.
matchups.
Yep.
And Eddie can't tackle Jackson. That's pretty much
Shane Marsaw loves Eddie Jackson.
I mean,
he's an Alabama guy.
The old Bama.
I don't think any Bears fans love Eddie anymore. So it's actually, name one, but besides Eddie's mom. But anyway, just saying, you get the support from your family is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, always. My mom
I'm
says
not going hard
special.
in the paint like Shane.
It's like the Gronk USAA commercials. I'm special.
No.
Yeah. That's pretty much what Eddie's at right now with everything that's going on. I'll let the first one up to you here.
Okay.
Which position you want to start us off?
You know me, man. I like to go down. I start with quarterbacks. I kind of go quarterbacks and down the list. So, I've kind of alluded to it already, and I love my start of Sam Darnold this week against Dallas. I just think the Dallas Mavericks, the Dallas Cowboys are definitely going to be putting up some points. I think that offense is looking, they're seeming to be clicking on all cylinders. They hung 40 points this past, last night. Dak he's looking great. I'm excited for him, as a football fan, to see what he went through and his story as, off the football field and everything going on, to see him succeed. It's a great story, except when they play Chicago or anything that'll help Chicago. I hope they lose. But with that being said, I like Darnold against Dallas. Their defense is solid, don't get me wrong, but I just think, he's going to have to throw the ball. I alluded to it earlier with the 3 receivers, and you have the 3 running backs of Freeman, our boy Treble, and Chuba. So I feel Darnold could have a big day. He's playing well. They're 3-0. That could mean a letdown game. True. Some people have said, but I could see them putting up a number against the Cowboys to try to hang. And I like him as a start this week. The guy that I want to sit as a quarterback would be Teddy Bridgewater. They're going against Baltimore. Their defense is trending up. Teddy's been playing well, but they're playing a good team. They're playing a good defense. So this is their first real test. And I just think it's maybe a little too early to kind of crown them out there. And I think we're going to have to see a little more from Teddy. He's playing great. But, between those two guys, I just say that's who my start to sit for the quarterbacks right now. Who you got, Mr. Johnson?
All right, we're gonna go out west. We alluded to this just a couple minutes ago. We're gonna go to this Niners Seahawks game. Ooh. And I'm not a big fan of him, but I am this week because it is start anybody who is playing against the Seahawks. It is Jimmy Garoppolo of the San Francisco 49ers.
We disagree on this one. Okay, I like
really?
This. Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, the Seahawks allowing over 300 passing yards per game to opposing quarterbacks. Seattle is one of 4 teams yet to come away with an interception so far in 3 games as well. Okay. Yeah, they've only given up 5 passing touchdowns. However, I probably did. Jamal Adams will come up with something. But Jimmy G, you could argue, is playing some of the best quarterback play in his time in San Francisco here. Maybe he just needed that little fire under his ass called Trey Lance to get him moving and realize that, okay, got to get the ball moving here. But Brandon Ayuk's coming alive here after last week's game against the Packers, and then Deebo Samuel being Deebo Samuel. I feel like this is going to be a shootout that is going to play well into the passing game for the Niners, and I am starting confidently as a QB2 in Superflex leagues, 1 Jimmy G.
Wow. Okay. Nice. I like that.
Sit wise, very under the radar to a very good start of the year has been Kirk Cousins with
Minnesota,
with the Vikings.
Definitely.
However, not a big fan of him this week against the Browns. I feel like the Browns are going to kind of take the confidence from what they did against the Bears and the fact that Kirk Cousins is just as much of a pocket passer as what Matt Nagy tried to make Justin Fields last week, despite the fact that Kirk Cousins is currently on pace for, get this, 5,200 yards, 45 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Don't understand how that's possible, especially out of Kirk Cousins.
Hey man,
However,
if I die, I die. Kirk Cousins, right? I love that fucking guy. I mean, I don't. That dude's crazy, dude. He's out of his mind, playing plexiglass if he has to. But with that being said, yeah, no, he is. He's been doing it for a while, and he's got great receivers, but with Justin Jefferson and not Stephon Diggs. Help me out. Why am
Adam
I?
Thielen.
Thank you very much, old man, tried and true, as I nicknamed him in our fantasy league. But they have a good run game, and you know what that means. If you can establish that run and they got to worry about it, and you have some talent on, they get stuff done because they have a guy that knows how to run an offense, and they got skilled players that get the ball and make plays. And Kirk Cousins, surprisingly enough, has been one of those dudes for a while now. And like you said, those averages and, walking that off the rest of the season, if he could get close to that, that's an all-pro season, So
God,
even if he's 500 yards,
even
if he's 500 yards short of that, he's at 4,800. I mean, that's fucking wild, dude.
Yeah,
to think. So that's a scary one. It makes you nervous. I see.
Yeah, to say the least. I'll start here with the running backs since we're just going to go right down the list here.
Let's do it.
Yes, we know Justin isn't a pocket passer, but that doesn't keep Matt Nagy from being a moron.
Yeah.
Starting.
We love you, Ron.
Another guy that's kind of been under the radar, started getting things moving last week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the Kansas City Chiefs. I like him against the Philadelphia Eagles. He puts in his first 100-yard game of the year last week. Why not get things rolling even further? Try and avoid that 1-3 start that is currently facing down the Chiefs right now. The fact that they're even 1-2 is mind-boggling to me, and really they're one play away from 0-3.
Defense is horrible, man. Their defense stinks.
They are, but Philadelphia is even worse.
Yeah,
especially against the run. They're 26th against the run. Again, it's one of those things where eventually CEH needs to also get involved in the passing game. He only has 5 catches for 38 yards. Mahomes has to look to him. They got to take the pressure off of Mahomes. Why not start to go out to that outlet there? And one of the better pass-catching running backs in the league in CEH. I think he has his breakout game this week against the Eagles.
Good call.
Sit-wise, get me away from Damian Harris. Do not like Damian Harris whatsoever against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Currently 10th in points allowed to running backs. He is trending in the wrong direction against a very good run defense of the Buccaneers. Last week, just 6 carries for 14 yards. He's played 42% or less of the snaps the last 2 weeks. And even in the week 1 game, he was floating just around 50% of the snaps played. So if this turns into a negative game script quickly, which it very well might, this will also mean Damian Harris is off the field very quickly. Not a great matchup for him whatsoever against his former QB in Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm with you on Harris. I'm scared of him. I stay away from him anyway, but yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I'm staying with running backs, right? Going down the list. But I'm staying on the same team.
Oh, really?
I'm starting Cordell Patterson against Washington, and I'm sitting Mike Davis. If you had to make a choice between the two, I think speaking of trends, Davis is just going in the wrong direction. And this is with a Washington defense that is not good.
They have not stepped up at all.
No. And Davis's usage has been all over the place this year.
Yeah.
But that speaks to Patterson's production and what they can do with him. And they just especially with a team that can't tackle, like right now, the Washington football team, I think Patterson is the guy you kind of want, the elusive back, as opposed to the guy that's just going to put his head down and try to run through you. A little easier to tackle. And so I just think, when you have 11 Eddie Jacksons out there, I would go with the guy that's going to try to put a little move on you, as opposed to the bruiser, like I just stated. But, I think, kind of a gimmick. I saw that and I was like, you know what, this is just something, not that maybe you have the handcuff, and you were able to get Patterson 2 weeks ago when we had talked about him and being a guy you may want to grab because he's going to produce. And look, he has. So, One Up has actually talked about some stuff that's come to fruition here. But with that being said, hey, we're not always right. I did call Robert Tonyan, I think week 1, and I think he had like 2 targets for like 0.4 points. So whatever. And Brady outscored Daniel Jones last week. So I ate shit on that too, but whatever.
It's all good.
I call it like I see it, man, and it's when you're wrong, but yeah, so I just thought that was kind of a way to look at it. And if you were able to get that handcuff, go with Patterson if you have some injuries over Davis. So there we are. If you want to go with the wide receiver, go right ahead, brother. Jump right in there.
All right, we'll dive right into it. We're going to head down to South Beach, Miami, where a unlikely, and I was not high on this guy whatsoever, but I am this week, Jalen Waddle, who has turned into quite a connection for one Jacoby Brissett in lieu of Tua Tagovailoa being on the IR with his rib injury. 18 catches the last 2 weeks with Jacoby Brissett under center. And now in comes Indianapolis, a team allowing more touchdowns to wide receivers than any other team in the league through the first 3 weeks. They have been abysmal in the secondary, despite what a lot of people expected to be a pretty decent defense. Overall, just has not been the case against wide receivers so far. So really like Jalen Waddle in that matchup against the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. A little sad that it's not going to be the Jacoby Brissett versus Jacob Eason Bowl, but hey, we can't be tortured that much, right?
No, we're just going to throw the guy out there with 2 sprained ankles that can't get around, and he's wearing 2 walking boots right now. And I mean, let's play that guy, but whatever. Sorry.
Yeah, no big deal. No big deal. Sit wise, this is a disclaimer here. If you have him, you're still going to start him, but you need to be very, very careful with how this game will go. And that's DeAndre Hopkins with the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Los Angeles Rams. This is more or less the Jalen Ramsey conundrum, a shutdown corner. He is going to be on Nook 24/7 in this game. DeAndre Hopkins still dealing with a rib injury. It has been affecting him significantly. And again, looking at the last couple of weeks, it has not been very solid production out of Hopkins either, especially for the draft capital that it took to get him in your redraft leagues this year. Only 75 yards on 7 catches the last 2 weeks. He really needs to turn it around, but I don't think this week is going to be it because, again, a very tough defensive assignment in Ramsey and dealing with the injury still. Hell, I would even think about just kind of sitting him and letting him heal up here because this is going to be a rough and tumble game for the Cardinals.
Yeah, you get that Ramsey assignment. There's, that's Clamp City, right? And it's not. It doesn't help anybody for fantasy. So yeah, I'm right there with you, man. That's actually pretty good analysis too, man. Look at you. You're fucking so smart.
Don't give me more credit than I deserve.
I can't wait to meet you in real life. I imagine your head is just like.
I do have a big head.
Yeah,
my wife blames
can't
me.
Cut that. He's looking to cut stuff.
Nuggets.
So look at this. I think we got like spies in here that are just taping it so they can send it.
You know that's happening.
Well, Shane's doing it himself, so but with that being said, we're gonna stick with wide receivers, and I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna breeze through these 2 for you, but I'm a huge Marvin Jones fan. I love Marvin Jones against Cincinnati. I look at a little bit of a revenge game against his original team. I think he's been on 72 teams in the NFL or whatever it's been, but he's played for everybody. He's also a target monster. He's a guy that I think Lawrence just feels comfortable with. He's a security blanket. He gets open. He's athletic as all hell. He makes some amazing catches. And he's a dude, to be honest with you, I have him rostered in a few of my leagues. I get trade offers for him a lot, which I find it surprising because they love him, but they don't value, the trade value is always like, they're trying to give me like a wide receiver 6 for him. And I've started him pretty much all season long, he hurt me 1 week, but I like Marvin Jones this week. Like I said, against Cincinnati, trying to put up a number. It could be a shootout. The two look, let me say it this way. Cincinnati could be up big. Jacksonville's going to have to throw like the rest of the season, so he's going to get targets. So that's my start.
Yeah.
And it was in the comments earlier with speaking of San Francisco, I'm sitting Brandon Ayuk. I don't like him this week. I didn't like him last week. I didn't like him the week before that. I don't like him. I think in terms of fantasy wise, he could be a great guy. I'm just saying, I just think he's a sit this week. They're going against Seattle, right? We talked about it. I just see all the production coming from Samuel, Kittle, Sermon, Mitchell, McCasey, whoever
anybody
else.
not named Brandon Ayuk.
Exactly. And so I just think, in usage wise, he's not getting the look. So, with making that assessment of just looking at targets, but comparing those two, I would go Marvin Jones over Brandon Ayuk in terms of comparing them, but I would sit him anyway, if I had to. So,
all right.
Yeah. And tight ends are simple for me. If you want, let's just hit him. So I got Hunter Henry, my start against Tampa. I think, Mac Jones is going to have to dink and dunk a few because I think Tampa's going to shove it up New England's, I see Tom coming in there and I'm happy being in New England, living in New England and being a Bears fan, and there's not one Patriots fan that wants to talk football right now. It's all about, dude, the Red Sox are playing Oakland because we could make the playoffs, and it's, which is great because I'm a Sox fan, but it's like, look, motherfuckers, you guys have like the biggest game coming up. This is your Super Bowl this year, and you guys are nervous as hell because Brady's probably going to jam it in you with no spit, and it's going to fucking hurt like hell.
Yeah.
And, so with all that being said, God damn it, Caden, there you go. But yeah, I just think I'm starting Hunter Henry just because I think they're going to have to throw the ball all day long. Speaking of your Damian Harris, like they're just going to have to produce somewhere. And John, who can't hold the ball, he's dropping it, causing interceptions. And I'm going to sit Jared Cook this week against Las Vegas. I know it's a revenge game, but I think Justin Herbert isn't going to need the tight ends that much. I just see him kind of wanting to go more with, the guys that are producing, Mr. Williams, Mr. Allen, Mr. Eckler, and go that route. So, those are my quick little 4 start and sits, glitches and cheat codes for my receivers and tight ends. And I kick it back to you, kind sir.
All right. I'll go through mine here quickly as well on the tight end end. Dawson Knox, the Buffalo Bills. Really like him this week against the Houston Texans. Houston 29th in points against to the tight end position. They've also had quite a few red zone targets as well. They've been stacking those up relatively quickly against the tight end position. As for a sit, there's a couple names out there that I've floated around. There's really not one in particular that I hate per se, but if I'm going to put one, I'm not a big fan of Mark Andrews' setup this week against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
Denver has been you can argue the fact that the Broncos really haven't faced a formidable tight end to this point in time.
They got great linebackers over there, man. They're good all around the ball, dude.
Yeah, it's probably not a game in which is going to work well for Baltimore's offense as a whole. I think that the Broncos are the real deal. We'll see if that's the case. They're also a team out there that is yet to record an interception, which is kind of mind-blowing. How many are there? Is that
the only 2? Seattle and
so there are a total of 4.
Wow.
That do not have it was the Jets. It wasn't the Broncos. What am I saying? They played Zach Wilson. Of course they did.
Oh, he hands it, yeah.
So the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Jets, and the Falcons have not recorded an interception so far.
Stay away from all those defenses.
So
if you play in leagues with defenses.
Yeah, we got one question.
How about Ralph here? Yeah. What do you think of Mr. Myers?
You guys feel about Jacoby Myers? He's one of those guys where I think especially in PPR leagues, there's a reliable floor there for him. It's just the question of, can he continue to perform in that role, because it's kind of come under fire in the last couple or I guess last 1 to 2 weeks in terms of being that safety blanket for Mac Jones.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember Kendrick Bourne being the guy that was the big player last week for the Patriots in that role. I believe it was 8 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown for Kendrick Bourne. Of all people, Kendrick Bourne.
The
But
Patriots overpaid for him, so they got to
yeah,
get something out of him.
I feel like there are better options, but I still feel like he should be a reliable wide receiver 5 on your end of your bench that can put up, a small amount of points, but not necessarily lay a goose egg on you. That's kind of how I feel about him. But I don't know. I felt like he was going to be more of a target hog, but it hasn't turned out that way.
Yeah, he's catching a lot of heat here in New England. Speaking of that, New England media, it's just that underproduction because he's coming with the alleged bill of goods, right? Like he's supposed to be really nice.
And even last year, it was pretty solid with Cam Newton, and just hasn't worked out that way.
In every league, every fantasy, platform, whether it's the Yahoos, the Sleepers, the CBS, everybody his production or projections are always like 12 to 16 points, and you're like, what the fuck? He's always sitting there in the waiver wire, like, do I want, or in 12 to 14 team leagues, he's never, he's obviously rostered, but it's like, yeah, he's an afterthought, I think, right now.
Yeah, he's got to show that consistency. It just isn't there right now. I mean, tell me if you haven't heard that before about the Patriots wide receiver room in terms of, what's out there. We're going to wrap up the show, though, with some quick hits in terms of what to check out on the waiver wire in week number 4.
We know who number 1 is.
Chuba.
All day long. And we talked about that. Roster 26%, right?
Yes, very low, but it is about to balloon, probably past 80% by the time it is all said and done, if not into the 90s. We'll see what happens. I'm not entirely sold, like I said, on blowing the whole budget for a guy like that might only be relevant for 1, maybe 2 weeks. But again, if you're in a bind and you need those starters, especially with bye weeks coming up, and hell, for all we know, CMC could have this linger a little bit. And
it's a hamstring. They don't know, if they're not fixing it with surgery, it's all up in the air. How many running backs have we seen in our time, or any just professional athlete, especially where you're using your legs like that? It could be a week. It could be 6, he goes to play week, he goes out there week 6. Next thing you know, it takes one of those stupid, one of those amazing little moves he does that just kind of, twerks that knee or whatever, and next thing you know, his hammy's flapping like a fucking window shade, and he's done, and you're sitting there with Chuba like, shit, I'm glad I held on to him. Thanks, Chris and Stephen.
Very true. Very true.
But yeah, he's a guy that I think, and he's available in a few of my leagues that I haven't put any claims in, in terms of any valued amounts. I've done some zeros, but I might throw my hat in the ring tonight. We're getting there. It's 10:30 my time out here, so I got 90 minutes.
Getting down to crunch time.
Yeah, I set my alarm to remind me at 11:30 in case it pisses my wife off. But it's like I got to make sure I don't forget, because it's happened. That's again, this happens when you smoke a little weed. You forget some stuff, but hey, you win some, you lose some. You take advantage of the tools at your hand, and you're good.
It's his life.
Yes, it is, sir. And CBD, that's what I'm talking about, by the way.
There whatever. You go. Obviously. A couple other guys just to keep in mind across the roster here. One in particular, look at it as an addition by subtraction situation, just based on it's currently facing the Denver Broncos. That'd be Tim Patrick, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, just 14% rostership right now. KJ Hamler out for the year with a torn ACL. Also, Patrick, at least 12 fantasy points per game in his first 3 games this year. So he has performed admirably for that Broncos offense and will have more than enough opportunities to be that wide receiver 2 in that system as that slot security blanket for one Teddy Bridgewater. So really like him this week. Who's the guy that you like?
It's a little blast from the past. It's surprising to say this, but AJ Green, you have rostered 15% of the leagues. He's a guy that last week, 5 catches, 112 yards, triple digits for the first time since 2018. But, DeAndre's hurt. He's got some rib issues. You don't know what you're going to, he's a guy that if you could pick him up, he could be a plug and play guy if somebody goes out. I mean, Rondell Moore didn't have only got 2 targets.
No, he didn't.
They went to AJ. They went to AJ, and so with that being said, I just think he's a guy that you may be able to get for no money because they're like, oh, AJ Green, fucking, it's, but at the same time, he's a dude that, may be able to get in there and give you some wide receiver depth, especially as we move along with buys. We move along with just the injuries, and ribs are like hammies, man. It takes one more, anything to tweak that. We're looking at Tua. We don't know. It's the ribs, unless you're Marilyn Manson and you're getting them taken out, it's like you got to deal with it. So, that's somebody that I have that I thought would, kind of just a blast from the past, but it could provide some points for you.
Absolutely. Could be a game of catch up as well for the Cardinals against the Rams if the Rams continue to have their way with opposing teams as well. Another player we talked about him a little bit earlier. We're going to talk about him here now, going the quarterback route. Sam Darnold with the Panthers. He's only has list. 9%. 9%. That is it. I don't get it. Over 300 yards the last 2 weeks, had 2 rushing touchdowns on Thursday night. I'm still trying to figure that one out, but it's going to be a shootout.
People off, man.
I bet. I those DJ Moore owners out there, as well as
Chuba and everybody. Yeah,
Yeah, everybody. But hey,
I think Christian McCaffrey was in the game. I think for the first one. I honestly think he was in the game. If that was before he got hurt. Yeah, so it's like, dude, what are we doing here? Because I remember, I think McAfee was saying he had like a parlay where if McCaffrey, it was the last one he needed. It was McCaffrey to score, then he got hurt. So he was talking about it. Anyway, that's why they call it gambling.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I like that call. That's a great call.
And Dallas on tap this week as well. Again, shootout situation. Dallas not the greatest defense to go up against. Hell, Jalen Hurts, despite the fact not a great showing from the Eagles overall, it was still a 20-point game for Jalen Hurts in fantasy land. So again, something to keep in mind. Only 9%. He should be out there just about anywhere, and really a guy that you might just want to hold on to as your QB2, as well as a plug-in for bye weeks with the way that he's been playing so far.
And just to piggyback your point, I think he's a guy that, he's averaging no less than 22 fantasy points if you did touch on that. But they're playing the Cowboys, who they've had Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts coming into the building. They've given up almost 1,050 yards. Like that's over 300 yards of passing game, as you've spoken about. And I think that is definitely a great pickup if you could get him, especially for just a streaming option, but also a guy that you may want to, hold on to, like we talked about with Derek Carr last week. And,
who's still at 50% for whatever reason.
I picked him up last week and he got me a W. The one W I got, he was on my I started him. So I sat Matt Stafford and started David Carr, and I still won. So
hey, it still worked out. That's all that matters. Yeah. That's all that matters. Who else you got?
There's with Josh Jacobs hurt, I kind of like the Peyton Barber play. Rostered in 6% of the leagues, but I want to stay there because I also think Henry Ruggs is a guy that's rostered in 50% of the leagues. And those are 2 guys with some potential to score some points. Ruggs, he had the 72-yard touchdown in week 2. He had 85 yards last week. So he's putting up the numbers. He's, last 2 games in a row, but he's on more rosters, if you will. But I like Peyton Barber as if you need somebody because you're dealing with the CMC, the Christian McCaffrey. You don't want to put in all your money, for Chuba. You want to try to get somebody. just for the next couple of weeks. Jacobs out, Kenyon Drake, So it's like, I kind of like Peyton Barber here. Just another guy that just, you see him on the waiver wire every week. I know you do in your leagues. And it's like, do I make that move? And now he's more of an option because they're dropping like flies. And I think it's something that you should think about,
Yeah,
and it may not cost you anything. You might even be able to wake up tomorrow morning and sign him.
Gruden has had the tendency to play the hot hand as he did in last week's victory, 3-0 Las Vegas Raiders. That is still weird to think, but hell, even talking about
what were they
Ruggs,
last year?
What were they?
6-1, 5-1. And
yeah, they got off to a pretty hot start. That's right,
yeah.
they did.
Yeah. $100 million for 10 years. That's a good deal for Gruden.
You mentioned Ruggs. I mean, Derek Carr missed him on a wide open bomb.
You saw that?
That would have been wide. Oh my God, you can't miss those. You just can't, especially for as accurate of a deep passer as Derek Carr is. It was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. But yeah, I mean, from a plug and play perspective, Barber definitely a guy there. And again, Ruggs is finally starting to get things clicking. So things are only looking up for him. I'm going to look at another wide receiver here as well, going to Buffalo. Gotcha. Another blast from the past name. He's 34 years old. But if I told you he was on pace for 1,000-yard season, would you believe me?
Unless he gets COVID.
Because he is. Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders. 23% rostership right now, but he is heading in the right direction, collecting that communication, that rapport with one Allen. I can't see this starting to fade. I think things are going to start picking up. You watch what Josh Allen has been able to do.
130 pass attempts in 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, things are moving that way, and honestly, it feels as though Sanders is going to get more involved as things move on. I really like him as a lower end bench guy that can really do some things if given the opportunity, and the fact that teams are a little bit smarter about jumping on Stephon Diggs versus what they were last year.
And Cole Beasley is all over the place, and the whole issue with him, you just never know if he's going to be able to play. So I thought you were going there for some weird reason. Like, is he really going to say Cole Beasley?
I am not.
But it's funny because I have Emmanuel Sanders on my list, so that's actually a pretty good call. I'll stay. We could stay here. I got one more. I got a ton of them.
Let's hear it.
To be honest with you, but
choose wisely.
I like these little diamonds in the rough, if you will, and I like Miami running back Malcolm Brown. He's taken a backseat to Myles Gaskin. But he got 34 snaps to Gaskin's 43 last week. He's rostered. Yes, he's rostered in 7% of the leagues. He also received two handoffs inside the 10-yard line last week. Granted, he didn't score, but with that being said, I think he's another guy that you might be able to wake up tomorrow and pick up, as opposed to spending some money. If you're looking for a brief fill the gap, fill the hole, plug whatever you need to do. If you're just trying to fix something, he's not the long-term solution.
No.
But I think for the short term, he may be someone you could play this week. I
did not realize I didn't realize the split was that close. That's under the radar. That's really
what we do here at One Up, Stephen. We try to find those diamonds in the rough. We're trying to help people out here. Granted, half the people listening are in a league with us, so they're trying to.
That's true. Yeah, so they're just going to go and add all those guys. We'll be the only ones left with bidding money by week 7. It is entertaining though to see just how the Miami offense has come about these last couple of weeks. Like week 2 was a disaster. They had a close battle in week 3. And now it's like I still don't know what exactly they look like outside of Jalen Waddle having a connection with Jacoby Brissett. Like that's the only consistent thing I feel right now with that team. But again, I don't. It feels like Brian Flores isn't sold on what that offense is, especially that running game, especially with splits like that. And if the game script works a certain way, which it very well might against the Colts, like we had discussed earlier, yeah, that could get you something there. I like that play. I didn't knowing the stats behind it.
I saw
like
that stat, Stephen. I actually said I was like, Mr. Johnson's gonna like this one. He's gonna, this is, I'm trying to use that brain of mine. Do you have any more? Or do you want to, what are your thoughts?
That's all I had.
Cool.
I just dropped the 3, so I think given the crew here and the people watching 6, I'd say that was a solid grouping to get you in for the last minute bids, the last minute claims to
as we get close to that waiver wire,
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully you're not teetering on the edge of panic with potential 1-3 start, 2-2 or better. Yeah. You're sitting okay. You're sitting
doing
all right.
17 games this year, so I don't know how your league is set up. You may get that extra weekend, and depending on what your commissioner did. So don't panic just yet. I think next week if you're 1-3, 0-4, trade everybody and try to make a move. But I think that's something Steve and I are going to talk about. Maybe is doing some trades and some mock trades as we move forward. Because I think it's good to just see some trade value in people's perspectives. Steven, I know I'm just throwing that out there as we kind of talk here, but I just think, as the trade offers are coming, I know, and some of you may have them out there and you want to kind of throw them our way and see what we think. If you get them through the week, shoot me I almost said shoot me a text, but hit me up on Twitter. It's right above me at Chris Jackle, and we, we'll throw it up next Tuesday and granted it's after the week, but over the weekend, whatever, we'd like to talk about it because that's what we do here. I know we got our leagues that we're in over at the Sleeper, the TTNL One Up Fantasy Leagues, and I didn't see how you're doing this week.
I lost.
You did again? You stink.
I don't know what happened. Oh no, I do know what happened. Amari Cooper screwed me. That's what happened.
Really?
Amari Cooper screwed me.
No.
Not great. Happened? Not great. Oh,
what just happened?
I don't know what you did. What did you do?
I probably hit the red button.
I didn't touch it. No. That's my job.
I was actually trying to throw up the standings. I had saved them in there, but I think I put it in the wrong spot. I put it in the wrong section. So, but with that being said, I lost 2. I'm 1-2 now. I was loving my team, and then I just
we're both 1-2.
2-1. No, I'm 2-1.
Oh,
wrong league. See, that's what happens, man.
All right.
It's too many fucking leagues. That's what happens.
Hey, it's all part of it. But hey, something to keep on the radar, though.
Yep.
Again, the trades, something you definitely want to keep in mind. And bye week start in 2 weeks. So again, whether you're flowing through that waiver wire, making sure that you don't screw up the way that your roster is stacked with bye weeks, because that can come back to bite you pretty damn quick. So. Yeah. Again, something to keep in mind, but we'll be talking about all that and much, much more in the coming weeks as we trudge along here in this 2021 fantasy football season. But that's going to do it here for this week of One Up Fantasy. Thank you all for tuning in once again. We will be back same time, same place next Tuesday night. 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, right here on Chi City Sports and the Tape Never Lies Network across Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. We're everywhere.
Yes, we are.
Pretty much. But
absolutely. Hey, across all streaming platforms.
Yes, exactly. We are catering to you, and that's all that matters. But good luck in week number 4. Let's see some victories, folks, except anybody that I might be facing. I don't wish good luck to you. Hey, that's just the competitive nature.
Fuck you. You're cool, but no, absolutely, man. I wish everybody luck, safe, health is wealth. Riley strong, Spencer strong. I know there's been a lot going on in the fantasy community also, Stephen, but
absolutely.
And I didn't know if you wanted to touch on that briefly before we get out of here.
Let's do touch on that. And thank you for reminding me on this. Mike Tagliere, Fantasy Pros, just an overall fantastic human being, passed away from complications from COVID earlier this week. 39 years old, has a young son and a daughter as well, and his wife Tabby, who has been just the greatest person somebody could go through this this journey of life with, just in talking with Tags and just everything that she did to help him achieve his dreams of, getting a full-time career in the fantasy space and being a key cog to what Fantasy Pros does and what thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of people rely on weekly, in terms of the primer. If you haven't read the primer on Fantasy Pros, he was that guy. He hosted all of their
check it
shows.
out. We could post it and put it out there so people can check out some of the stuff. I mean, but go ahead, Stephen. I think people need to kind of get informed if they haven't.
Yeah, there's again just an overwhelming response that's come out from the fantasy football community here over the last couple days since the news broke that the Tags passed away, and all the thoughts and prayers to Tabby and his family. There is a GoFundMe set up that Fantasy Pros has put together. Yep. They Fantasy Pros has pledged $100,000 towards it. I believe last I checked, it was nearing $400,000.
Just about when I checked this evening, it was just under 400,000.
Yeah. So it'll be $500,000 headed to Tags' family to help them through this difficult time. But honestly, one of the nicest and most caring individuals you could ever meet in this space. I'm heartbroken that he.
I'm sorry for your loss, man. I didn't know.
And it sucks. I mean, there's no other way to put it, but again, just every interaction that I had with him and just meeting him in person a few times. He used to live in the Chicagoland area here, and would hang out with us at draft parties and everything else that we had going on. And again, always engaged, always, is great of a conversation as you could imagine. And I mean, for all the words that could be said, Tags, we'll miss you. We love you. And it's tough, but rest easy, buddy.
Yeah. Well said, man. I'm sorry for your loss, bud. I wasn't fortunate enough to meet him. I saw his interactions with people through social media, and definitely listened to him in terms of the wealth of knowledge. But just seeing the outport of support for him and his family, it just goes to show what type of fabric he was made of. And I hope that his family is able to find some solace at this time in some support in this situation. COVID is just, the people that don't believe in it just haven't been affected by it, unfortunately. And so I just, I'm sorry for his family's loss. I'm sorry for your loss and all his close friends and families and everybody that, that are dealing with this at this time. So, appreciate you sharing that though, Stephen. Thank you.
Yeah. Not again, not the
we wanted to end it, but I also didn't want to leave it out. I think it's important,
Absolutely.
And I think we should, we'll put something out to anybody that hasn't found it yet. We can definitely put the GoFundMe out if anyone would like to donate and contribute to the family. It's obviously going to a well-worthy cause, it's I Godspeed on his new journey, and I just feel for his family.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, that's going to do it here for One Up Fantasy.
Yeah.
For Chris Jackle, I'm Stephen Johnson. Thank you for tuning in this week. We'll be back next Tuesday night, like we mentioned earlier. Good luck this week. May you all win. And again, we'll be back to talk week 5 and the fallout from week 4. Same time, same place, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central next week. Take care, everybody.
Take care, everybody.